Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today we will be taking a look at the Star Trek collaboration tank, the Emissary. For those of you short on time, here is my snap take on the Emissary. It is now the fastest premium medium in Era 1, and it's got a very similar performing gun to the T95E3. The penetration is slightly down compared to the E3, but the high explosive alpha comes in at 500 alpha per shot, which, if you're someone who gets ticked off with 4005s and you want to give it straight back to them, then yeah, you can do a considerable amount of damage in the time that it takes a 4005 to reload. You can shoot a 4005 3 times during its reload, and if you're going to do 500 average, then you're going to be doing more damage to them than it can do to you. So if you like hunting 4005s, this is a tank for you. There are some downsides though. The gun can be very trolly, the aim time feels a little bit slow, the reload feels a little bit longer than I'd like it to be, but then maybe, you know, if it were any quicker it would be unbalanced, overpowered. And the armor doesn't feel very good to me at all. It doesn't bounce anything, which is, you know, balance is what it is. So if I had to say anything bad about this tank, that's what I would say. I have bought the Emissary though, but that is because I'm a small Next Generation fan, and on the whole, if I had to rate this thing, I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
Fascinating.
Okay, let's look at the Emissary in a little more detail and compare it to the most common of Era 1 premiums, the premium mediums I should say, the T95E3. The Emissary has 251mm of pen on standard rounds, 325mm on gold rounds, and 53mm on secondary rounds. The the E3 has 261mm on standard rounds, 330mm on gold rounds, and 53mm on secondary rounds. So the E3 pulls ever so slightly ahead from a penetration point of view. The Emissary will do 390 average alpha on both standard and gold rounds, and as I mentioned earlier, its secondary high explosive will do an average of 500. The E3's the E3's performance is identical, with the exception of its secondary high explosive, which will only do 480 average alpha. The Emissary has 1800 hit points, the E3 has 2000. The unboosted top speed of the Emissary is 67 km an hour, while the E3 lags behind at 56. View range of the Emissary comes in at 460 meters, E3 comes in at 475. The moving and still concealment of the Emissary is 432 and 410 meters, while the E3's is 442 meters and 422 meters respectively. So at a very high level, these two tanks, there's give and take between them. E3 has better pen, Emissary has better high explosive performance, which, you know, typically in these reviews I don't really talk about the high explosive performance, but given that Era 1 has the HE magnet, then 500 average alpha is now a unique selling point. Both have amazing gun depression. That is one thing I do like about this tank. It's got amazing gun depression, 10 degrees of it. E3 has the same, so it's no better, it's no worse, but it's a feature of the tank that makes it very, very nice to play. And again, not to mention, it is the fastest premium medium in Era 1 by quite a long way. The E3 though, if I'm being honest, if I'm being truthful, the E3 does still come out on top though, because its turret has armor and it can bounce a lot of incoming rounds. You can play it hull down. You can do various things with the E3 that you just can't do with the Emissary. The E3 is a very forgiving tank, which is why it's given to every single new player for free. That said though, if everyone's got one, it's not really all that special, because it's just another E3. And the Emissary, I mean, when we're looking at it, it's a very, very unique tank. I mean, the aesthetic that we've got going on with this tank is incredibly unique, and again, if you're a Trekkie, you should get one, because it's not a bad tank. But if you're not really into Star Trek, or you're not really into, well, buying premiums, you can probably pass on this one and be okay. I've got one because I'm a next gen fan. I like it. That's why I bought one. So, it's no gain really, no loss for having or not having this tank. It's just a nice bit of variation that we've got added to the game now. Alright, let's take a look at the economy stats before we wrap up the review. We'll take a look at the rest of this game, but before we do, let's take a look at the economy stats. So, the Emissary has a 55% silver boost, 15% tank XP boost, a 6% free XP boost, and finally a 15% crew XP boost. Aside from the tank XP earn rate, the Emissary has better economy stats when you compare it directly to the E3. A 6% free XP earn rate is also another unique stat. I know the T95E2 has a 6%, I think it's the E2, has a 6% free XP earn rate. That is typically higher than most premiums, most tanks in the game. So again, that's another unique stat, another unique selling point for this vehicle that may be of interest to you. So, is the Emissary worth getting? I'd say yes. If you're losing interest in playing the T95E3, then yes, get one, because this is a nice variation on that tank. And again, if you're a Trekkie, of course, you're going to want to get one. That just goes without saying. So there you go. Is this thing worth getting? Yes. If certain criteria is true for you. No. If you're relatively new to the game and you're still getting to grips with the E3 and you still like the E3, you don't need the Emissary. You've got the E3. That's more than capable of doing the same job, if not slightly better. But if you're into Star Trek, then by all means, go ahead and get one. Alright, so that is the review part of this video done. What I'm going to do now is something a little bit different. I'm going to let this replay play out, because it's a defeat, but it's a good example of what the Emissary is capable of. So right now I'm in F5, which is a favourite position of mine, noting that it's a favourite position of mine when I don't reverse off of this raised area of the wall. I have done that many times and paid the price for it by killing myself as I impact the ground. But no, I didn't do that this time. Panicking slightly as the 4005 bounces a shot, and I say the armour isn't brilliant, and I bounce the 4005. So, yeah, not sure what happened there. Maybe RNG. I don't know. But from my regular play experience in this tank, not any sort of unique, strange RNG situation like that may have possibly been, I have found that this thing doesn't hold up. And I don't play it in a manner that would suggest it can hold up. He says as he bounces yet another shot. Interesting. Maybe it bounces more than I realise. I don't know. But anyway, I am playing this quite passively. I'm not pushing forward all that much. I am, however, conscious. I wasn't sure where this 4005 was going, but this here is an example of how using the high explosive, outplaying 4005s, can be a lot of fun. I have no idea why that 4005 drove straight past me.
Disengage the cloaking device, Commander.
Not a clue. He wanted the M48 for reasons I don't know. But there we go. There's my first 4005 dispatched with the high explosive. In the first game in this replay, you'll probably notice that I just took it out straight after buying it, and after buying it, there were no gold or high explosive rounds in this thing. So I had to put 10 of heat, 10 of high explosive in this manually. That's just a note for anyone that does buy this tank. 6 versus 9. Numbers aren't looking likely to be a win given the spread of the team and the fact that they're on the cap. Peek the corner here, and it's a 4005. Now the speed of this thing, switching back to high explosive, the speed of this thing does mean that you can use it to outplay 4005s, and this is something that I do think needs to be highlighted. The 4005 is a good tank, it hits very hard, but it is not unbeatable, and what you're going to see right here is a demonstration of what you can do to a 4005 using the mobility of this tank. So here we are, we're doing 56, we're clipping along quite nicely. 4005 is trying to run away, but we are keeping up with him. Server lag there for whatever reason means my shot disappears, and we're just going to keep chasing this guy around in circles till eventually we get to this position where I don't know why he fired there. We get to this point where we can just sit behind him. No need to worry now, no need to stress it. He can't do anything. Final shot, and there he goes. There goes the second 4005 of this game. So there we go, guys. The Emissary. It is the 4005 killer.
Strength is irrelevant. Resistance is futile. You must comply.
I'm not going to survive this. At this point, they know where I am. There's 7 of them. There's only 2 left in my team. Take as much damage off the SU as I can. Farm it. You know, we're on 5,800 damage now. Respectable result for an Era 1 medium. I've got another flank on my left, flanked on my right, and I'm dead. So there we go. Alright guys, that is all I have got for this Emissary review. If you've enjoyed it, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.